Okay, I think we are now on the live stream. I apologize for the delay. We were getting people into the room. We are coming back from executive session where we received personnel recommendations, discussed a safety issue, and discussed legal issues. Can I get a motion to move back into open session?
Motion to return to public session.
Second.
All right, we are now back in open session. Welcome, everybody. In accordance with South Carolina Code of Laws 1985, Section 30-4-80-E, the following have been notified of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting: the Herald, the Charlotte Observer, CN2, and WRHI. If I could ask everybody to please join me for a moment of silence. Thank you. We'll now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining. Board members, you have received a copy of the agenda. Were there any adjustments or corrections to the agenda?
No, ma'am?
No.
All right, then that will stand as approved. And we do have a couple action items resulting from our executive session, so I would entertain any motions for that.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the administration for 7 certified staff positions, 5 replacement, and 2 new.
Second.
I have a motion, a second, for 7 certified staff positions, 5 replacement, 2 new. Is there any further discussion?
No, ma'am?
Nope.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the administration to accept the resignation of Teacher A and report to the South Carolina Department of Education.
Second.
Motion is second to accept the resignation of Teacher A and report it accordingly. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. I believe those were our only 2 action items that came out of that. So with that, we do have some pretty exciting special recognition. We'll move on to item 5.01, the recognition of our school district retirees.
Can everybody hear me? Like Ms. Spears said, this is always an exciting time. Last meeting, we recognized the longevity persons that had been with us 5, 10, 15. Well, we really honed in on the 25 and 30-year folk. Tonight, we're going to honor the retirees, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the group. And they're not all here, but if you looked at all 29 retirees, they had a cumulative provided years service of 577 years to the district and have impacted countless lives during the course of their tenure. These retirees have worked in all facets of the district, from the front lines of our school offices to the classrooms to the administration to those essential services that keep our schools running, such as transportation and food service. We truly appreciate and applaud our retirees. Let's give them all a hand for those years of service. And as the word implies, retired means they don't always come back for their retirement ceremony, so they're not here. But I'm going to recognize the ones who are not here at the end, but I'm going to go ahead and call out the ones that are here, and let's honor. So first we have Deborah Bogan, retired after 24 years of service, mostly at the Power School Clerk at River Trail Elementary. Pamela Fleetwood, 29 years of service, most recently as a Human Resource Secretary at the district office. Connie Grantham, 20 years of service to Fort Mill, most recently as a band teacher at Fort Mill High School. All right. Scott Kosanke, 34 years, social studies teacher, Fort Mill High School. Charlotte Ann Ledford, 41 years, math teacher, Fort Mill High School.
Yes, she is.
Donna Perry, 22 years, most recently a 6th grade math teacher at Fort Mill Middle. Kelly Smith, 30 years, most recently art teacher at Fort Mill Elementary. Lisa Jean Smith, 20 years, most recently lead teacher at Pleasant Knoll Elementary. And Julie Warner, 23 years, most recently as coordinator of specialized instruction. Before I call the other names out, is there anybody standing in the hallway that I'm going to miss? Okay. The other retirees who were unable to attend: Susan Babb, Mary Ellen Bales, Audrey Caggio, Cheryl Canty, Stephanie Choate, Barbara Dixon, Tammy Furr, Kirk Godby, Whitley Haber, Joanne Heron, Pamela Jones, Pamela Kiddenberg, Ann Lambda, Deborah Moorshed, Tanya Norwood, Pam Pittman, Estelle Prinsloo, Amy Rossett, Melissa White, and Sarah Elizabeth Williams. Let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you. I believe the reason a lot of you guys are here in the room is we do have a section here for public participation. I've received some cards. I'll go through how we're going to do that. I wish I didn't feel the need to make this statement, but I am. I'm going to remind everybody that this is a business meeting, and we're going to ask everybody to behave in the way you would behave in a business meeting. I'm going to give everybody a certain amount of time, and I want to make sure that everybody is heard for their allotted amount of time, which means we cannot have heckling, interruptions. I would hate to have someone removed, but we will do that if we need to. So I need everybody to, there's some heated topics that are going to be discussed tonight. A lot of high emotions, understandable, but we're here to respect everybody's different voices. Because I have 19 cards, we're technically supposed to have 15 minutes. I'm going to give everybody a minute, and we'll run over a little bit. I think that's the best we can do with the numbers that we have. We have a couple different themes, so I've grouped them. I can't tell when it comes to mask who's pro or against, so those are mixed in together. But we do have some other topics. So I wanted to start off, and they're not in any particular order than just me sorting through them. The first one, first couple are Gary Wickerhouse. Sorry, I know not everybody's in the room. And then on deck will be Larry Bird, or we can do it in reverse order if one's here and the other one's not. Okay, so what will happen is you'll be able to come to the podium. I want like you to introduce yourself, state your name and address, and then you'll have, in our new time, we'll have a minute. There'll be a countdown that goes on up here, and we'll ask you to conclude your comments when your time is up. So
Okay, how much time do I have?
about a minute.
A minute. All right. My name is Gary Wickham. I am at 336 Wendell Drive in Fort Mill. I am a grandfather, a father of 4 adults and 6 grandchildren. And I do appreciate all that you're doing and the sacrifice that you're making. And I'm here to talk about CRT, critical race theory. And the first question that I have, which is a yes or a no, is critical race theory being taught in the social emotional learning course?
So I apologize that we're not, critical race theory is not on our agenda tonight, so we're not going to be discussing it as a board. We'll listen to your input, but we're not going to be entertaining discussion right now.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry to hear that. Okay, so I can't ask you any questions then?
We're not, it is not on our agenda to discuss tonight.
Oh, how do you find that out?
Our agendas are posted at least 24 hours in advance on the district website.
Okay. Well, I'm very disappointed. I have a published article that was published this month about critical race theory, and I'm going to hand these to you, and feel free to read those. Some of it may be redundant, but redundancy is probably a good thing in a lot of areas.
And we do have your contact information, so if we want to get back in touch with you, we have a way to do that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next up, we have Larry Bird, and again, on deck beyond that would be Angela, oh gosh, I'm sorry with the names, Aloratini, if that's even close, sorry. Mr.
Yes,
Bird?
good evening. It's nice to be here tonight. Thank you for letting me talk. I'm going to be talking about critical race theory myself. I know some of you folks, you've come to the Oak Initiative meetings. I appreciate what you're doing as school board members. I have a few points to make. True equality will be achieved by maximizing the ability of Americans to become self-sufficient, not by dividing Americans on the basis of race and apportioning resources based on skin color. For Americans who care about poverty, alleviation, and constitutional government, critical race theory represents a critical threat. If implemented, critical race theory's social policies would continue to erode the key preconditions for advancement: family, education, and work. Another key point I'd like to make: policymakers should reject the tenets of critical race theory and orient public policy toward rebuilding the institutions of family, education, and work for Americans of all racial backgrounds. True equality will be achieved by maximizing the ability of Americans to become self-sufficient, not by dividing Americans on the basis of race, apportioning resources. Thank you.
And I know it's quick, and I apologize. You just happen to be here on the night when there's a lot of people. So next up, Angela Orloratini. You can correct the way I said that. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Can I begin? All right. Good evening. My name is Angela Oluratimi. I'm a resident of Fort Mill for 16 years. I'll get straight to the point since I only have a minute. I challenge each of you to stop the spread of CRT in the Fort Mill schools. I understand that you as board members do not choose curriculum. However, you are elected representatives, and you must advocate for the children and families of Fort Mill. You're not powerless. You are not powerless. Please investigate for yourselves, write letters, issue statements, communicate with Columbia that this is not acceptable in Fort Mill schools. Don't look for a textbook or a course called critical race theory. You probably won't find it. If you look for teacher training under a title such as diversity and inclusion, anti-racism education, or even if you look at the current summer reading list in the Fort Mill high schools, you'll find a book by one of the top proponents of CRT, Ibrahim X. Kendi, called Stamped: Racism, Anti-Racism, and You. Please fight for the children of Fort Mill. Thank you for this opportunity to share. And thank you for your service on the school board.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a card, Chris Germano. Wasn't really sure what topic was.
I don't know, they got a minute, I didn't hear you.
Okay, I'll say it again. You probably didn't hear the beginning, so if you'll approach the podium, give us your name and address, and then you've got a minute to address the board with your topic.
Yeah, sure. Hi, my name's Chris Germano. I live at 1426 Fall Sea Drive in Trinity Ridge. I have 4 beautiful girls at Dolby Ridge and Elementary, and I'm here because I wanted to talk about this DC Act 23-532. And this act is actually, it's not here local, but I wanted to make everybody aware. It was passed in December, went into effect in March, where the people were actually coming and vaccinating the children at the schools without the parents' consent. And they actually then would circumvent and go to the insurance company, and then that information would go back to the school, and the school would keep that information from the parents. So it was for 11 years of age and up. Fortunately, I don't live there, and my kids are much younger than that. But it's really just this. I'm here for a public announcement, just to let everybody know that whether you're for masks or against masks, or for vaccines or against vaccines, the real thing is that the parents have the choice to do what they think is best for their child. And the fact that, I mentioned this to my wife about the vaccines, and she thought it was crazy, and then I showed her this bill, and it passed. And there's parents suing right now, but they can't stop what's already happened, and it's been going on through the summer. So I just wanted to let everybody know.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
All right, I believe the rest of the cards, best I can tell, again, not sure who's got which opinion, but they're all related to the topic of masking and COVID protocols and so on and so forth. So I believe they're in the order that they were handed to me. That's the order that we'll go. Again, I'm going to ask that we stay quiet and listen for the minute to each person has to present, whether you agree with them or disagree with them, so that we can get through all of the cards. The first one up is Elizabeth Holloway, and after that I have Joanne Walker, just so you can kind of be getting ready.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Holloway, 2701 Farm Lake Lane. I have lived here since 2010, and I have raised 3 kids. 1 just graduated, and I have 2 more left. And I wanted to address 3 topics. One is the bus. When the state has to provide bus routes for the students, and we're being told that that once registration is closed, it's closed. That's you can't do that. And the second thing is fighting. I've already had a child get in a fight in one of my kids' classes, and both kids were had to whatever they had not expelled, but for 3 days out of school suspension. I have told my kids that they're allowed to fight back if they want, because the RSO is not going to get there in time. There's going to be problems. The kid could get hurt. And third, I'm a nurse, and everybody should be wearing masks.
Joanne Walker was next, followed by Cody Carlin, if you'll be getting ready mentally.
Hey there. Y'all know me already. I'm Joanne Walker. Thanks for having me again. I wish we didn't have to be back. So I just want to say I saw the dashboard, and I know y'all have seen it too. I want to let you know that out of the 80 school districts in South Carolina, 10% of these school districts have already put children first and pushed back against the budget proviso. Those are Charleston County, Richland 1, Richland 2, Florence 1, Marlborough County, Newberry, Chester, Colleton, and Pickens. I know you all are well aware of this. It's in your power to do the same. The governor, he's wrong, and the superintendent of schools said as much last week, and I know you all heard that. I'm just going to give you some suggestions. I would love to see a mask mandate, obviously. I know you can't use the words mask mandate, but it should be coming from the top down. There should be a district-wide campaign to strongly encourage voluntary mask wearing at the very least. The principal should be encouraging all their staff. If there's an incentive to encourage it, that'd be great too. We need masks on buses. There's an entire school bus from Kingstown Elementary that is currently quarantining because somebody on the bus had COVID, and the entire bus is now having to quarantine because of it. Put on a mask, and it'll help to keep the spread down. We can have lunches in classrooms, related arts in classrooms. I also just want to say, update the dashboard daily. There's like a fear, and it's very stressful every Friday and Tuesday. I know you all have the data every day. Update it daily so that we are well aware and you're transparent. And if you're going to require masks, if you can't mandate it for everybody, allow the parents to opt out again. I honestly don't even care at this point. I just want my kids to be safe. Thank you.
Next up, I have Colby Carlin, and then Chase Rebnam will be next.
What's the first name again?
Chase Redmond.
Hi, I'm Colby. I'm currently in 5th grade at Doby's Bridge Elementary School. In school, some of the things they teach us is to stand up for what we believe in and to be independent. Well, I'm standing up for our independence right now by saying that we all deserve a choice. I know I'm young and just a little kid to some people, but I still have an opinion about things. I think that everyone should have the choice if they wear a mask or not. My choice is not to wear a mask because I don't want to be forced against my will. First of all, it's hard to breathe in them and they're very uncomfortable. And when my teachers wear them, it's hard to understand what they're saying. Another reason is that they feel like a muzzle on my face. And I promise I don't bite. I'm not trying to unmask others. What I'm saying is that I personally don't want to wear one. And it should not be up to others if I wear one or not. It should be up to nobody but my parents and I. I know we're all here tonight because others are asking you to go against the law that our governor made. I don't understand why parents would be asking you to break the law. Parents are always telling us to follow the rules, but they are trying to get you to break them. So which way is it, parents? Are you going to set a good example for your children and follow the law? Or are you going to break it and set the example for your children to do the same? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, Chase Redmond. And then next is Dr. Bin Shah.
You can leave them with
Yeah.
him and we'll pass them
Pass
down.
them down to us. Can you tell us your name and your address, and then you can address the board?
Hi, my name is Chase, and I live at 1744 Bettany Lane. I'm in the 7th grade. I go to Golden Hill Middle, and I've been I was part of the last year's AB students, and I had to wear a mask. So I thought I would say, I thought I would tell you like how it felt to like actually have a mask on. It wasn't a good experience because I would have to wear it in PE, and I would constantly have to go into the corner of some of my classes to take it off and breathe. In PE, we had to wear it inside and run laps and play sports. And at the end of the day, I'll get very nauseous. I'd have a headache, and sometimes I would even lose balance. It'd also be really hard for me to sometimes hear my teachers or see my friends' faces. And I just please don't make me wear a mask again. I'm speaking for everyone who's in our school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Shaw, followed by Jackson Rio.
Hello. Hi. My name is Birju Shah, and I'm a father of 3. I'm also a physician with a degree in microbiology and years of infectious disease research. I believe it's important to address those that have been privileged to not have to witness this disease firsthand. First, the scope of the problem. There's a significant amount of community spread, as we all know. More people have died of COVID worldwide in the first 6 months of 2021 than all of 2020. Currently, a third of Piedmont Hospital is full of COVID patients, and all of the local hospitals, including Levine Children's, are either operating at or approaching max capacity. There are countless COVID patients in the ER still waiting for rooms. There's a significant amount of disinformation out there, largely amplified by social media. Masking only works when everyone wears one because it prevents droplet spread from the affected individual even before symptoms develop. I, along with 1,500, that's 1,500 of my physician colleagues around the state of South Carolina, have signed a petition to rescind the proviso that was signed by Governor McMaster prohibiting mask mandates in schools. This is a unified message from experts around the state, which is also in accordance with other guidelines. I ask that you please just recommend guidelines, recommend masking, even if you cannot mandate them. It's important to remember that everyone here has the same goal: to keep our kids and teachers safe and in school. Right now, there's 1,200 kids in quarantine. To simply hope that things get better without actually enacting measures to do something about it is not an effective strategy. Let's take the lead of other other counties and communities, please. Thank you.
All right, Jackson, followed by Kelly Mccarty.
First, I would like to pass out some copies of my speech to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Jackson Rich, and I live at 1056 Argus River Drive. I'm a sophomore at Catawba Ridge High School, and I'm here tonight with both myself and Moms of Liberty. Thank you for hearing me out and letting me speak about my experiences. I'm the one at school, and your decisions are directly impacting me, and I would like to share exactly how it does that. Having plexiglass up and wearing a mask made me feel like a fish in a bowl or an animal in a zoo, and I couldn't see any of my friends or my teacher because they're all standing there, and I couldn't see through anything that I was supposed to. I wasn't allowed to see or connect with any of my friends, which made it feel like a punishment for something I did wrong. Forming deeper friendships is just as much as a part of the high school experience as it is learning, but wearing a mask took that away from me. I couldn't properly interact with my teachers or my peers and felt very isolating. High school is supposed to be fun and learning is supposed to feel good, and it wasn't. I have ADHD, and wearing a mask made it all that much harder to concentrate on what I was learning. Because of these difficulties, my grades dropped steeply. For the first time in my grading history, I got a C in any of my classes, and I could have easily gotten an A or B otherwise. Are these factors really worth a 9 to 12% decrease in cases in schools? Breathing without a mask is nature's way to expel toxins from your body, and this isn't allowing me to do that. And isn't it true that we receive federal funds to pay for HEPA filters that are supposed to get rid of any COVID in the air? So what's the point of having to do both of this? It doesn't make sense. Please let me make my own choices, and I have no problem with anyone who wants to mask up, but they shouldn't have a problem because I don't. Flu happens every year and mutates and kills more people than this virus has. I don't believe forcing me to wear a mask at school is in my best interest. I also want you to know that some of my friends feel the same way as I do. Some can express their opinions freely and others cannot. We are teenagers. Let us live our lives and learn in a way that gives us our best chances at life. High school is hard enough. Please do not make it any harder. If you have any further questions about my experiences, I would be happy to answer them. Thank you again for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Jackson.
All right. Next up is Kelly Mccarty, and then on deck will be Kate Pelosi.
I have something to hand to you guys real quick.
Yes.
You want me to start?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, my name is Kelly Mccarty. I live in Fort Mill, and I've been here since 2008. And I'm here with Moms for Liberty. I originally had a whole speech prepared with references and data from different government and scientific agencies. I was prepared to present data to support the argument against lockdowns, quarantines, in-school masking. Then I realized that although there are opposing views within this room, we all are here because we love our children. We are all here for the same thing. You want your kids to be protected, safe, healthy, just like I do. I have 2 teenage daughters. One is in middle school, and the other a senior in high school. She's one of your cotillion students. All I want for my kids is to love school, love learning, grow and flourish. Over the years, and yes, my girls have been here since kindergarten, they have been blessed with amazing teachers, amazing schools and staff. I remember the field trips and the class projects that parents would all attend. It seems like a lifetime ago, pre-COVID. I understand the fear. Oh, is that it?
We have your materials, though.
No, it's a little different, though. That's from the group. All right, I'll do it the next time.
All right, thank you.
Kate Pelosi. And after that will be Kristen Villatoro.
Hello. My name is Kate Colosi, and my husband, John Colosi, could not be here tonight. I'm going to speak partially on his behalf. My name is John Colosi. I'm a board-certified nurse practitioner who works in emergency medicine and treats critical patients on a daily basis. I have 2 children who attend Dobie's Bridge, and I would strongly encourage against mask mandates for all children, which denies parents of their right to do what is best for their children. From a medical perspective, we are trained to base our practice on well-funded data. Evidence-based research is foundational to the practice of medicine. The problem with masking healthy children long-term due to SARS-CoV-2 is the lack of evidence and data. There is no data for masking children in school. On August 9th, the former CDC director, Robert Redfield, responded when he asked about CDC policies for masking children. These policies should be grounded in data as opposed to opinion. On August 17th, an interview with the director of the NIH, Francis Collins, is quoted saying, "Masking is due to more concern over school closures than based on data." He also admitted that they have no data. We are almost 2 years into this and we have no data. COVID, the NIH has $42 billion that they budget, and only less than 2% was spent on COVID. We need data if we are going to proceed to mandate masks for our kids and for parental choice.
Thank you.
All right, Kristen Villatoro. Lisa Watson will be up after this.
Good evening, board members. My name is Kristen Villatoro, and I am a student at Gold Hill Middle School, currently in 8th grade. Before I start, there are a couple things I want to clear out of the way. I am not a scientist. I'm not trying to prove whether or not masks are effective at stopping COVID-19, but I'm here today to give an insight on how masks affect us, students, and why my peers and I feel they should not be mandated. Every morning, we state our pledge. We pledge liberty, justice, and freedom for all. Liberty, the state of being free within society from oppressive restrictions imposed by authority on one's way of life, behavior, or political views. Every student and staff member will hear this word and pledge to stand by it every morning. How can we abide by liberty if we don't even have a choice whether or not we wear a mask on our face? I'm not telling anyone that they cannot wear a mask, and the same no one should be forcing me to wear one. About a year and a half ago, I moved here from New York. I began to attend 6th grade a month before COVID started. As I just began to make friends, I became locked in my room for the next few months with the social distancing restrictions, with nothing but a Chromebook and my phone. Once we came back in person, I knew nobody, so making friends was a problem already. And to add to this, I could not see anybody's faces. On top of this, the frustration of me and my peers as we attempted to understand our superiors through the masks was extreme. Recently, I heard of a boy who was 12 years old, just like me, who took his own life and nobody saw it coming. How come no one saw it coming? Maybe because he hid behind a mask and kept distance from everyone as he was told to. Maybe because he felt alone. The emotional aspect of wearing masks is a lot more complex than most of us think. When a child...
All right, we've got the rest though, so thank you very much, and we can read your last paragraph or two.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good day.
Lisa Watson. Lisa Watson? No? Thank you. And then Angela Ferci will be up next.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Watts, and I live in Fort Mill. I am a pediatric nurse practitioner who cares for a number of children in the Fort Mill School District. I am also a mother of a child in the Fort Mill School District. I'm here again today to talk about how we can safely keep our kids where they belong, in school. The disease is ahead of the data. The Delta variant spreads faster than previous strains. On average, one person with Delta will infect about 5 to 8 people. This, unfortunately, is true of both vaccinated and unvaccinated individuals. Much of this transmission happens before the person is symptomatic, and so while we may not mean to get others sick, we do so without realizing it. Let's play this out in numbers. Right now, the district has 179 positive cases. Now let's take the lower rate of the transmission and say that each of those patients infect 5 other people. You now potentially have 895 pending positive cases. And all of them, again, unfortunately, have the ability to infect others. And unfortunately, they are contagious about 48 hours prior to developing symptoms. Thank you.
Thank you. Angela Ferci is next, followed by Matt Morrison.
Hello. Thank you for accommodating all our speakers here tonight. My name is Angela Ferci. I live in Ormond Court in Fort Mill. I'm here to ask about data and data with quarantining healthy children. How many of these positive cases last year and currently and close contacts are actually contracting COVID compared to those that never come down with any symptoms? How many have asymptomatically spread COVID to others? Have we collected data on the academic impact of students last year being quarantined? Have we looked at their progress before, during, and after? Also, the CDC confirmed that vaccinating people can spread the virus, but we are only quarantining unvaccinated children. Quarantining healthy kids because they're not vaccinated for a virus that you can spread even if you are vaccinated. Why are we discriminated based on vaccine status? Unless we can show relevant, reliable, and valid data to support the effectiveness and the risk versus benefit of quarantining healthy, close contact students, we should really rethink contact tracing. Students are being unnecessarily quarantined, wreaking havoc on the school system and families. And if I could just give you my whole.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I believe next is Matt Morrison, followed by Megan Markey. You've got a lot to read tonight.
Extra homework.
All right.
Whenever you're ready.
Hi, everyone. My name's Matt Morrison. My daughter goes to school in Fort Mill, and I'm a member of Moms for Liberty. I'd like to thank everybody for having us here tonight, and I appreciate everybody's opinions and suggestions to ensure that our children have the freedom and ability to learn and grow to be our next future leaders. I want to talk a little bit about quarantining guidelines and parents' choice. What is decided here may have a very lasting negative impact on how our children develop. Here are some things to consider when crafting the policy. Children are at the lowest risk of contracting and presenting symptoms of COVID-19, and children have had COVID-19 are even at a lower risk. That has been proven in multiple studies. The new Guardian Air system that the school system has installed, has chosen to install, kills 99.9% of the COVID-19 virus, making the interior of these buildings some of the safest on the planet. Currently, DHEC quarantine procedures state that if one student in the classroom tests positive, it is up to the teachers on who is a close contact, and these healthy children are then barred from school. I urge the board to think of a solution-oriented ways to keep more healthy kids in school. Some schools are giving parents notice that a student in their child's class has tested positive and are allowing the parent to decide whether to keep their healthy children home or to send them to school. Thank you so much for your time.
Megan Markey, and then we have Greg Wigington after that.
Hello, my name is Megan Markey. I'm a mom of 2. I'm a certified K-5 teacher, certified art K-12 teacher, and I'm here today to talk about some math. The mask mandate in any school would cover only less than 33% of a student's normal 24-hour day. Once these children leave the school, they go home with their families. They play with their friends. They go to dance school, gymnastics, sports practice, choir, play musical instruments, church, whatever their parents have chosen to be their preferred extracurricular activities. All of which involve these students, my children, our children, interacting without masks in a normal, as intended human interactions, which have gone on for thousands of years. All of these would render a mask mandate moot anyway, and are explicitly driven by the parents deciding what is best for their children, both inside and outside of the classroom. All that I am asking is for you to give me a choice for my kids. They're my kids. We should be able to choose what is best for them. And that's my time. Thank you.
All right, so then I have Greg Wigington, and then I believe the last one to be Stacey Kobe. Okay.
Hello. My name is Greg Wigington. I live in Fort Mill at 5817 Savona Terrace. I've lived in Fort Mill for about 9 years, and I have 2 kids in middle school, 7th grade. So I'm here today to talk a little bit about masking. The science on masking has been inconsistent at best. Studies have been contradictory or non-existent. On August 3rd, former COVID advisor to the Biden administration, Dr. Michael Osterholm, was interviewed on CNN. He said, "We know today that many of the face cloth coverings that people wear are not very effective of reducing any of the virus movement in or out. In addition, we have no long-term studies about the long-term effects of masking kids for this much time, either mentally, physically, or emotionally. Nobody's trying to prevent anyone from wearing a mask. If you believe that a mask works, then you have the right to have your child wear as many as they want for as long as you like. Under this scenario, with freedom and no mandate, everybody has a choice. With a mandate, nobody has a choice. As the board looks at this, please keep this in mind and look at this through the lens of freedom, choice, and parental rights. Thank you very much for your time." Thank you.
All right, and then our final speaker will be Stacey Kobe.
Hi, my name is Stacey Kobe. I live at 1818 Petunia Drive in Fort Mill. My son is a 2nd grader at Springfield Elementary, and I'm also a doctoral student at Wingate University in the healthcare field. Disappointment does not begin to fully express the way I felt about the lack of a virtual option for K to 2nd grade for this school year, but then to find out that you also removed all common sense measures put in place to keep your in-person students safe from COVID Delta variant has made me and my family feel angry and helpless. Like all these other parents here, I believe that children belong in schools. However, with current COVID infection and quarantine numbers, there are currently 764 elementary students who are unable to access their education in academics, social skills, or special services that they are entitled to under IDEA. If you're not willing to put common sense measures in place to keep our children safe, please give us a virtual option to meet your motto of children first every day. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public participation, and I have to say thank you to all of our presenters, because I think that's the first time that we've had one in quite some time that everybody was actually able to get through their presentations without interruption. So thank you very much. Obviously, a lot of differing opinions on this topic. We may hear a little bit more about some of it later. Right now, we've got a couple staff reports that we're going to move into. 7.01 is a Keystone Duke Endowment Grant. Ms. Danielle Russell, Executive Director of Keystone, I believe is going to come up and talk to us about that.
Good evening. I have the pleasure of introducing 2 people that are going to share some awesome news with you tonight about the Duke Endowment Grant and our Student Assistance Program. So I'm going to introduce them, let them tell you all about it. But this is Danielle Russell. She is the Executive Director of Keystone. And we have Allison Herright, who is the coordinator of the Student Assistance Program. And I may or may not have taught Danielle like 2 years ago. So I'll turn it over to them.
that working?
You may have to turn it on.
Yep. There you go.
All right. So like Grace said, my name is Danielle Russell. I'm the executive director at Keystone. I've been in that role about 3 years, and prior to that, I worked in the prevention department at Keystone. So we have been given the opportunity. We wrote a Duke Endowment grant last year to look at getting clinical. I feel like I have to talk fast because you guys timed everybody. I'm trying to slow down because I feel pressured. So we've been given a Duke Endowment grant. It's a 3-year grant. It's $660,000. And what it does is it gives us a clinical counselor in every single school district in York County. So really, and I'll go into more of what the program actually is, but the whole purpose of the program is not just to reduce substance use. Obviously, that is a big issue that will be targeted, but it will also improve attendance, behavior, graduation rates, those kind of things. And so we're hoping that through this program, we can see some of those results over time. So we have a lot of evaluation measures in place so we can see those outcomes at the end of year 3. So what is a student assistance program? So it really is focused on having healthy, drug-free youth. I think we all know that even with COVID, that we're seeing more and more kids experiencing, starting with vaping and alcohol and marijuana. Those are the 3 I think we see typically starting around middle school age. So what this program is going to do is not just focus on substance use, but it's going to cover the entire continuum of care for substance use. So we'll have prevention, intervention, treatment, and recovery services. So the whole point of it is to intervene early. So we all, everybody that we see in our treatment facility that has severe addiction problems as adults, every single one of them can tell you they started with marijuana as a kid. Every last one of them. So we're hoping that with this program that we can start to intervene early. Now I know that Fort Mill is a massive school district and one person is not going to reach everybody, but this is a pilot program, and so the point is to see, is there a need? And I can tell you our person just started, I think today, in your school district. All the other 3 school districts already have referrals. So that just shows you we're in week 2 of school, how prevalent these issues are with vaping, marijuana, and alcohol. As I mentioned, it covers the entire continuum of care, so I'll go into specifically what we will offer your school district with this grant. But ultimately, it's to eliminate barriers for treatment. So oftentimes we hear that kids are not coming to get treatment because it costs too much money. Or, we went to school all day, and then we have to transport down all the way to Rock Hill to Keystone. So we're trying to eliminate all of that. Every student that is referred into this program for treatment is at no cost to the student. So that is something we are really excited to be able to offer because we know that is a massive barrier. And having a clinical counselor on site, they'll be able to do individual therapy there as well. So we are excited to eliminate those barriers. The only cost of the program is if you get enrolled in an intervention program, and that's not on the schools or the school district, it's on the student, and that's just because there's evidence to show that if you pay a little price, it's also going to reduce the risk the next time they use. So it's really not a money-making thing. It's really just that there's evidence showing that enrolling in the program and paying for a program can reduce the next time that they use. So this is what we are offering through this program. So prevention side of it, we do offer one-time speaking engagements to students, staff, and parents, really any group associated with your school. We used to charge people for those, but because you guys have signed on to this program, all of it will be free of cost. I do think we've already been asked by the high school 101 teachers, so we're already plugging in. We have a lot of trends presentations. I know I've done some for some principals here before. We do substance-specific presentations. We do game-based learning. We've been in a lot of PE classes. So all of that is available for you guys, and I'll show you how you can request those presentations here in a second. And then we're implementing BOTVIN life skills curriculum to 6th grade students. So we're just because of capacity, we're targeting 50% of the middle schools. Right now, I think Banks Trail and I believe Pleasant Knoll is on board. Okay, yeah. I was like, she just signed on board today. And then we might have one other one that we're looking into to be able to do that as well. We're targeting 6th grade. They're starting a new school. That's really the age that we see right before they start to use. So we're hoping that we could be able to do that program in at least 3 of the middle schools.
For intervention program, this is for your kid. Maybe they just got caught the one time or tried something or brought a vape to school or something like that. And the intervention program is they're not actively using. So we have 6 different ones that we can offer. Under the influence is obviously for alcohol. Nicotine 101 will be for vaping, marijuana, other drugs, conflict and resolution, and respect and resolve. So these programs are all, they meet with the counselor one-on-one for about 15 minutes. They kind of go through a quick assessment. They enroll them in the program. The program is online self-paced, so they can do it. It really depends on how the school wants to do it. You can do it in ISS. You can assign it for OSS. You can do it, as a homework assignment. I mean, there's really a lot of information in there that they could use. So they go through that program. 30 days after they finish it, there's a follow-up exit interview. So that's another 15 minutes just to kind of see where the kid is at. We do this with Winthrop University and Clinton College, and it has been very effective. I'll be honest, I was kind of against the online piece first, thinking it wasn't going to do anything, but it actually shows you by the end who is actually just using and experimenting and who is actually needing further treatment. So it was a good guidance to see who needs that additional help. And then obviously the treatment, the pieces we will be able to do on-site is assessments and individual therapy. If a student is identified at a higher level and needs group therapy, right now we just don't have the capacity to offer that in the schools, so they would be referred to Keystone, but we are able to offer the other 2. And then obviously recovery is the ultimate goal, providing environments that are substance-free where they can interact. I don't think that's going to be a year 1 goal, but kind of creating a support group inside the schools. And I think one of the schools actually in your district used to have a support group for kids that lost parents to overdoses. So it could be kind of morphed into anything really related back to substance use here. So this is your counselor. So if you guys see her around, she is going to be housed out of Banks Trail. But she will be hopping around from school to school. I'll have her contact information at the end that you can reach out to her and show how you can refer. So if you guys see her, she wanted me to put her face nice and big so she can be well known here. But she will be the counselor working with your district, and we will have, just because you guys are a large district, support staff for prevention services. And then I'm not going to click this, but it's pretty simple how to make a referral. It's keystoneyork.org/SAP. So you can request a presentation on there, and you can make a referral on there. So really what happens is if you fill that out, it goes directly to the counselor. The counselor will meet with that student. They'll see if they even need to do an assessment, because we're not going to go straight to an assessment because some kids might not need that. So they'll have kind of like an informal 15-minute interview process there. Parent consent is required for us to do anything with we have parent consent for prevention, intervention, and treatment. So parent consent will be across the board. So that will be asked before anything happens. That's why it's kind of informal at first to see what's actually needed, and then the counselor will follow up with parents after that. And then this is the contact information. So you can contact Robin directly. And as he said, Allison Herright is the SAPS coordinator, so you can also contact her as well. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you, one, for what your organization does to help our community. Hear amazing stories, so thank you very much. I guess the next part is asking for a friend. How does a middle schooler get weed?
You can get weed off Snapchat. You can get weed off social media. You can, a friend of a friend, brothers. You can ask any middle schooler. All you got to do is ask them, and they can tell you where to get it.
That might lead to an awkward dinner conversation, but is it really middle school? Like, what is it about middle school that starts this whole thing?
I think it's just part of your brain development too. It's that part where you start engaging in riskier behaviors. So that's why you see a lot of use kind of middle school, high school age, probably early college, and then people kind of trickle out unless you get into that addicted phase. I don't know, other than that, more accessibility could be part of it. Being around older kids, that could be a part of it as well. I would say in middle school, I don't think we see as much marijuana. Really what we're seeing big time is vaping. Yeah. And I will tell you to be careful with the vapes, because vaping, the pen can be used to smoke marijuana. So that's what we're trying to educate people. There have certain pens now that you can purchase. And I will tell you, and I've asked kids, that there's a legal marijuana now out being sold in our area. It's called Delta 8. Anybody heard of it? Yeah. So that is basically marijuana, but a little less potent. And that's because our law was written around THC Delta 9. So the marijuana industry created Delta 8. So you can, and I don't think there's an age restriction, is there?
There should be, but not everyone's carding.
Yeah, so you can just walk into a store at this point and go buy it.
Yeah, most vape shops have it.
Right next to us, there's a big, nice sign that says Delta 8, Kratom, everything.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for thoroughly scaring me this evening.
Sorry.
But I do appreciate you coming.
If you guys ever want trends presentations, we'd be happy to do that for you.
That sounds good. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, following that, 702, procedures for remote teaching the fishbowl model. I think we heard someone say it felt like fishbowl. Apparently there's a reason we're calling it the fishbowl model.
Right.
It does feel like fishbowl. I'm not gonna lie, I understand.
Yeah. So I'm here today to talk to you about one of the options we're providing teachers for trying to reach students while they're out on quarantine or during isolation, and it's the district is calling it the fishbowl model. It's similar to what other districts in our area are offering, and in this model, it's really a one-way communication model where the student at home observes the classroom, and within this setup, the teacher creates a Google Meet from Google Classroom for the student to join. They can access the Meet either through Google Classroom or Seesaw. And the intention is not for the student to necessarily interact with the teacher. It is an opportunity for them to follow along with any direct instruction the teacher is providing during that time. Again, we're not expecting teachers to pivot and do an entire virtual lesson for this student. And the student should not expect to be connected all day, just during a short period of direct instruction, if that is what the teacher happens to be doing during that day. And we've emailed teachers the process for that, and that's been included in your board packet. So student expectations, students should join the Google Meet only during the periods of live instruction, and teachers should share a schedule with students in Google Classroom or Seesaw for that day when they should be expected to join. And again, we provided a quick checklist that teachers can print out for a quick reference while they get this set up. So again, this is an option for teachers to try to help students who are out on quarantine or during isolation if they were going to be doing some direct instruction in the classroom anyway, it's a chance for the student at home who has the internet, who has a device, to be able to see and hear what's going on. One of the goals would be to reduce the amount of instruction needed to catch that student up once they return from their quarantine or isolation period. And it also is a way to keep students engaged and connected to the classroom while they're out, and again, to ease them back in to face-to-face learning. So are there any questions about that model?
So this is for not the situation where an entire class has been quarantined together.
Correct.
But where we have one student, two students, and the rest of the students continue to learn in person because it's an isolated incident, a way for them to keep up with what's going on in the classroom. I'll say real time, even though it's not interactive. It's still somewhat real time to see what the teacher is in fact instructing on that day.
Right, and so, and what the teacher's doing is going to drive whether this is appropriate or not, right? So if, say in elementary school, the teacher was going to do a mini lesson in the morning for ELA and a mini lesson early afternoon for math, that may be appropriate if it's direct instruction. They can wear the pendant microphone so that the student could pick up the sound of the teacher talking, watch the mini lesson, then the teacher may post problems or whatever in Google Classroom for that student to do at home. It's not an interactive session, so if the student has questions, they would follow whatever processes and procedures the teacher has already set up for students who are out sick with anything to communicate. But then again, say if that teacher was, doing small groups or whatever, it may not be appropriate for them to try to do this fishbowl during that time. So it's just an opportunity when the teacher thinks it's appropriate to help engage that student at home.
So it's kind of a case by case, day by day, student by student, it depends.
Right.
But this is another option.
That's
that
right.
Could be used. Okay.
Trying to provide teachers with some flexibility.
Well, I have several questions, but that answered a lot of them.
Okay.
I guess, do we have, if every teacher wanted to do this, do we have the devices readily available for everybody to work in this model?
Yeah, every classroom is set up where a teacher could do this from their classroom.
Okay. One of the slides in the presentation has to do with FERPA compliance.
Yes.
And I guess, how realistic do we believe in a classroom full of students that it would be feasible that you would not get another student in the picture of what's going on?
Well, and again, the idea really is for periods of direct instruction, so they could potentially not turn on the camera, share the smart board while they work out how to do a math problem, and the student follows along on that screen. Or if the teachers, doing a lecture, if they point the camera just at themselves while they're doing the lecture, and then turn, the intention is as soon as that portion is over, they end the Google Meet, so it's not just running continuously. I think it's doable. I think it's realistic.
But right now, this is an option for staff.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You may have mentioned it. A lot of teachers hear fishbowl or hear what you're talking about and think it's the
Synchronous simultaneous.
Which requires extra paying on. And we got a ruling or an opinion from the State Department on that question, did we not?
Yes. So we reached out to the State Department when they passed that for clarification, and they agree that this is not what that is. That is intended toward a class in person and a class virtually, and the teacher trying to do two things at once. And this is really only the teacher's not changing their lesson to accommodate the student at home. It is, I was going to do this anyway. I think if I just let the student listen in, they can benefit with what I'm doing in class and then shut it down, and the student would pivot to the alternate assignment or the assignments in the Google Classroom or Seesaw for the rest of the day. Yeah.
Are there similar concerns with potentially kindergarten, first and second grade? I know that was one of the concerns we looked at in the virtual program is attentiveness and it being an effective model.
Yeah, and
I guess because this is isolated as an option, teachers would be able to pick and choose those peak performance times or
right. And I think the district doesn't feel like virtual kindergarten, first and second grade for an entire school year is the best choice, or maybe even a good choice for us to try to do based off the challenges that we faced the last year and 10 weeks. So in this case, however, it is a short period of time. It is optional. It is only when the teacher thinks the student may benefit from it. So we wanted to not exclude them necessarily, since it is trying to put another tool in the toolbox.
And there's a plan in place, I believe, for children that may not have devices at home.
Well, not with this. Well, we have provided each school with 10 Chromebooks that include a hotspot that the school can check out for that period of isolation or quarantine. to cover the best we can students who don't have internet and or a device. So we're trying to meet that need as much as we can, and we realize 10 may not be enough, but that is what we have right now.
Other questions?
All right.
We're told to consider.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, you're up for an update.
And Marty, I'm gonna use Marty a little bit too. Each year, we always, we usually meet the first and third Tuesdays. We always push this August meeting schedule back, so we'll have some enrollment data when we have this meeting, and that's the reason we're meeting later in the month. And so I take this opportunity each year to talk about, in the case of today, it's the first 7 days of attendance data. And usually what we, in the past, with the growth being as I don't know, as robust as it's been, we would use this time to decide whether or not we look at the first 10 days when the data settled down, and we would decide where we had bubbles and where we needed to hire people, if indeed that happened. And Marty's going to address that a little bit, but before she does, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the opening in general, and talk about some of the other issues. And after that, Mark, we're going to talk about enrollment. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about the COVID-19, some additional mitigation strategies that we're going to put in place to beef up what we started school with. And then I'm going to address the mask issue at the end. So what we did, the first day of school, I typically go around, visited all, there were several of us, visited all 20 schools now. Can you believe that? 20 schools. And we got it done in one day. But we welcomed more than, and these are rough numbers, 17,500 students, either virtually or in person, last Monday. We saw the opening of Forest Creek Middle School, which is our 6th middle school and 20th school site in the district. While we saw some expected delays in transportation and car rider lines, along with some issues with new third-party applications being implemented, the day and week went well operationally. We're still facing the challenges of beginning school during a pandemic, and I'll speak to that at the end of the presentation. What I did see on that first day were excited students, excited kids, teachers. It was really, I think, I don't know, it's a short summer, but it was like it was a long summer. And maybe with what's going on, they were so excited to get back in school, and that's our goal, is to keep kids in school. And so they, the expression on their faces, the way they moved around the school, it was a typical first day, which they're all pumped up anyway, and then there's only 179 more to go after that, of course, if you're a student. But we don't talk about what's after that day. The first day is always kind of like a big happy experience, and it was, through the drop-off lines, through the students in the building. A little bit about enrollment. I mentioned we started out with, I think the first day we always have kids that we are not here, and we started out really with 17,376. We had about 17,900 in the computer, so we were looking for 500 or 600 kids. And so you never know how that's going to play out, but that's why we look at the numbers over a 10-day period. Usually by the 10-day period, or certainly by after Labor Day, we settle in at a pretty steady number. Now, the past 4 or 5 years, we've grown some during the year, which is complicated matters. And so the bulk of your growth occurs during the summer. When we say we had 900 students a year, 800 or 1,000, most of it's during the summer, but it is gradual during the school year, as you notice as a board when you look at the numbers. But after day 7 today, we have topped 17,808. I think I mentioned last meeting, we are now, and I saw where Rock Hill's at 17.3. We are now the largest school district officially, and I said I thought we would be, but you never know who's going to show up. We are officially the largest school district in York County, certainly not the largest in area. We're the smallest in area in the state, square miles, but we're the largest in enrollment. So therein lies the challenge. But we are at 17,808, And Ms. McGinn, could you kind of give us a little summary of what we're looking like on the numbers?
So, as of today, I ran the class counts for elementary, ran class schedules and course load reports for each of the middle and high schools. And overall, we're in pretty good shape. There are a few bubbles here and there, but not extreme. And I'll give this to you. I'll just point out the couple of places that we're really watching, and then I can post these to the board docs. But I want it to be the most current today because it changed by 100 students. So if I gave it to you last week, it would have been, had to do it again anyway. So, and we've been watching those. Of greatest concern is probably Gold Hill Elementary's kindergartens are at 23 and 24. And their first grades are at 22, 23. So first grade, especially since kindergarten does have an assistant, 23 it's concerning, but not as concerning as the first grade at 22, 23. If they continue to grow, the problem at Gold Hill, as you know, is space. So that would be something we'd need to discuss. The other sections are in good shape at Gold Hill Elementary, but that's one area we're watching. Kingstown first grade is also large, and these numbers that I'm going to give to you in just a second are without self-contained. So when self-contained students push in, they can go up for certain times of the day, but this is like without the self-contained. So this is kind of like best case scenario, but realize that some of the schools have self-contained students that come in and out during the day, so it may elevate the numbers. So that's why the ones that are in yellow are the ones that we're really watching. River Trail, we did add a teacher there late. That helped one huge bubble. We're still watching kindergarten there at 22, Sugar Creek 22. There are a couple of places that have, based on scheduling, have chosen to load the classes differently to focus on learning loss and where they felt like their needs were. And the Title I schools have additional staff with Title I funds that push in and assist in some of those larger classes. And so they just principals made some decisions. So if you want to discuss those, we can, but they've made decisions on whether to move a teacher from one grade level to another or to have higher levels here than another for various reasons, and they're all sound and good reasons that they're like that. But the elementary class sizes look really good except for those couple of bubble spots I just mentioned. So I'll give you that, and I'll probably update this one more time and upload it in board docs, and you can see and the public can see. Then for middle and high school, we opened, as you know, Forest Creek Middle. And this year, the state was pretty slow in getting us the data that we needed for GT identification. And so there was kind of a last-minute surge of placing students in GT in middle school, and so that caused some unbalance in classes, and some questions have come up about Forest Creek and Banks Trail and a few places where there's some large classes. They've noticed or have heard about some classes that are large, but overall the classes are really in pretty good shape across the middle schools. Banks Trail, just kind of overall, there's only one class, core class, English, Math, Science, Social Studies, that's that's 30 or above. We have one at 30 in middle school. One, I think it's a GT math class or ELA class. And then we have several classes between 27 and 30 across the district, not that many. Banks Trail has 4, Forest Creek 4, that includes the one I just talked about. Fort Mill Middle 1, Gold Hill Middle doesn't have any core classes between 27 and 30. Springfield Middle has 2, and Pleasant Knoll doesn't have any between 27 and 30 students. So it's kind of, at the 26, 25, 24, 23. Some of them smaller. Room for growth, that's good, especially with those that are continuing to grow. So we are watching, and it's interesting. It seems like it's 7th grade. 7th grade at Banks Trail, 7th grade at Forest Creek are the ones that are, the ones that have a few sections. But that's out of hundreds and hundreds of sections. So it's not super alarming, but it's, something to watch at Forest Creek with 7th grade. And there is room in 7th grade. It's just that when the schedule was made for gifted and talented, they were balanced, and then the new identifications kind of pushed it over last minute. So we'll be watching that, and if we need to address that later, we will. We'll just kind of see how it settles out in the next few weeks. In high school, across the 3 high schools, there are only 40 sections, and I'm talking about individual class periods, with class sizes over 28, and only 2 that are above 30 across the whole district. That's pretty good. The state requirement is a minimum of the defined program standards for high school is 35, and so we have none across the district. I mean, for 35 for middle school too, but we have none at that level. So we're in good shape state-wise. Our policy, our goal is not to exceed 30, and for the most part, we're there. And if you look at the average class size, we're in very, very good shape.
So those that are over 30 or at 30 on the high school level, those core classes?
Yes, a couple of them are core classes.
That gives me a little bit of concern, especially when we're talking about GPAs, class rank, scholarships, and so
Sure.
forth. I'm really concerned about those particular core classes.
Right. And we'll see how it settles out. The principals and assistant principals, the APIs, they try really hard to balance where they can, if they can. And it's a feat to develop a master schedule. But that just to have 2 is really not, that's pretty good, really. I mean, consider year to year, that's probably as good as it might get, with that kind of a complex schedule that a high school has to try to run.
I would say the only thing that's worrisome is the fact that we're on day 7, and we know a lot of times other states that are used to not starting until Labor Day are surprised that we start in August and show up in September to start, and so we usually have a little uptick, late August, early September. So
Right.
I could see us still adding a few more.
And that's where, with high school, they would work towards not putting any more in those particular classes and try to work out the schedule. And, again, some of those may work themselves out in the next few days. Sometimes they continue to try to balance those. And we have students that move. Actually, the 30 are High School 101 at Fort Mill High. When I said the core, I should have I had that. So that's High School 101, mostly electives.
So can we go back to first grade and Gold Hill and Kingstown? What's the, we're waiting on something because, 23 first graders, and first graders are nothing more than, at this point, kindergartners with 7 days of experience.
Exactly.
And they're coming out of a situation where they had an assistant all the time, and 23 bodies, little bodies in the classroom that are still learning basic rules and routines. That looks a lot different than some of the other grade classes that have 15, 17 in other schools. That almost looks like a priority to add.
Right. Right.
Immediately.
Well, the problem at Gold Hill is space. And so Josh and I have talked, Mr. Burris and I have talked, and I've talked with the administrative team about how to resolve that if we can't add if there's not another first grade classroom, whether we would need to do something else different than that. And so typically we wait to the 10th day and see, to make sure they all show up, what the real number is, and then it may be the administration makes a decision about what to do with first grade there and where there is space. And honestly, there's not space at TUK. Typically, if we have frozen a school or frozen a grade, we've sent it to another school. So it would either be freeze and send to a school that has room, like Riverview, or add a teacher or figure out another space at Jock. So we'll wait to the 10-day numbers, but we do have several options to address it that we've already been discussing, and I agree with you.
Is there space at Kingstown, though?
I believe there is.
Okay.
And again, I'll haven't actually talked to Jocelyn about that, Miss Young, personally. I'm surprised, I'm wondering why my phone hasn't been blowing up. Because I already helped her once, So we already added one, late to Kingstown and to River Trail, so they're trying to be conservative, but we'll see how many actually show up on the 10-day numbers and get back to you.
Ms. McGann, a question here. So the 5 yellows, is this quite typical on a yearly basis, or is this you feel good about compared to past?
Yeah, I feel really good.
Got it, okay.
Usually we have more bubbles than this, so in a way, but then it makes me nervous. When are they coming, you know?
Sure.
But
Well, we've opened 2 elementary schools last year. I think that probably helped. We opened a middle school this year, so that probably helped with the typical bubble we see now.
Right.
But the growth is here.
Yes.
People are still coming, and
Absolutely.
we don't want to wait too far into the school year before we decide that we're going to, get somebody.
Absolutely.
And my concern with these younger grades is that I would assume that some of these first graders were virtual last year, so they don't have experience with rules and procedures. So they're very similar to kindergartners.
They are.
Which makes it more difficult for those teachers. To have a class of 23, you don't have an assistant, and now a lot of us don't have experience having been in school the previous year.
And, one of the levers, you didn't say it and you didn't either, but at some point when schools fill up, right, we have a strategy that we've used every year that I've been here, and that is that we end up freezing a particular school, a particular grade, and,
She mentioned it.
Oh, you did say, I didn't hear the word freeze, so.
I was trying to not alarm anybody.
I had to use that bad word.
I didn't want to say it.
I'd imagine if those
But we've been saying it.
Those first grade teachers that have 23 kids in their class were standing here right now, they would probably be advocating for anything that we could do.
Right.
to-
Right.
And I know while she's walking away, one of the things that we got an update on earlier, we talked about the 7 positions but the good news is we're in good shape with staffing, right? So while we've got some bubbles, thank goodness, we've got the positions filled, right?
Yes, yeah, right, and the challenge would be, we've used all our FTEs up, right, Leanne? Y'all have to pay for the teachers, so, we'd love to have them and hire them, but, we do have to write a check, so. Budget. Okay, my turn to continue? All right, so, let's talk a little bit about the other side, the challenges with the pandemic. You looked at last week, at the beginning of the week, we started school, we had mitigations in place. I'm gonna recommend tonight that we even go deeper into those levels. We have a list of, like one broad group of mitigations where we're regular, normal school. Then there's the parts where we start loosening up and closing down, shutting down certain parts or tightening up certain parts. And then you go to the 3rd level, which is all remote. So you have these checkpoints where and I'll talk about that a little bit. But to be honest, it's such a fluid situation. What I'm talking about tonight, this is August the 24th, Tuesday. It may be different on Wednesday, August the 25th, because of what's happening out of our control and also what's happening here in our district. But when I say out of our control, I mean there are several lawsuits pending. There was an effort last week, and this is in regards to mask and for 5-day-a-week instruction with the numbers. There was an effort to, and I think there still is an effort to pull the legislature back together and look at that. Don't know that that'll happen. As you know, several districts, and I'm going to talk about that, why they're doing that, and there's some legal challenges there. So the Supreme Court in South Carolina is reviewing, I think, one of those challenges. They've already made a ruling at the upper higher ed level in regards to mask. So I think, as I said, tonight is Tuesday night. Tomorrow, something might be different. And what we did last year, whenever things happened and we had to make changes, we made them. So it's not like we have to have a meeting to do a freeze or to, we're nimble enough to to maneuver when we need to. But let me talk a little bit about, and I'm gonna not start with mask. I'm gonna start with some of the other mitigations that we're looking at and that we're gonna do. We're going to, and the reason I say I'm not gonna put an exact moment on this is the first time the principals have heard this, because we're in day 7 and we're meeting every day and we're reviewing what to add and what to change. We're changing things up on flyers, programs. We're changing things up on the buses. So we're going to return the meals in the classrooms at the elementary level, try to eliminate some transitions there. So elementary principals will be thinking about how we're going to do that. We've already spoken to the lunchroom managers. We know that'll help. Class interactions during recess periods will be limited or suspended. So now I think we've got 2 or 3 classes playing together. We're going to talk to the principals about maybe changing some of that up. Last year, I think classes were out there by themselves, so we need to look at other mitigations that we can use. All out-of-district academic field trips will be suspended. We will continue the 3-foot social distancing. We will continue the contact tracing. That's within the law. No volunteers or visitors will be allowed in the buildings. That's going to be a change. We started to let them in slowly. We're going to back off now until we get on the other side of these numbers. All large participation events such as open houses or pep rallies will be canceled or transitioned to virtual events. That's the first time the high school principals have heard that. I see them sitting out there. And all sports programs and events will follow the guidance of the South Carolina High School League. So, you know, they're going to be attending ball games on Friday night until the high school league limits seating, and we're looking at what other districts are doing, like we did last year in regards to limiting attendance. But it's usually not a problem unless Fort Mill's playing Catawba Ridge or one of the home. But right now we're with the guidance of the high school league. In conjunction with DHEC, the district will make determinations on the need to transitions, individual classrooms, grade levels, school sites, or the district as a whole to virtual learning based on COVID-19 case data. So these are some guardrails that I'm going to talk about now. The standard for making a transition is determined when using multiple factors, including evidence of community spread within a program, class, or school, or the safe operation of the school. In other words, if the numbers continue to increase, we will ultimately lose enough staff they'll get sick, and we'll have to minimize lunch programs, transportation. So that would be another way that we would go remote at a school. The district will follow the general percentages of positive cases listed below. Individual classrooms, 20% positive or 3 student positive. That's not quarantine now. That's 20% positive or 3 student positive. And last year, DHEC came out with that, and we've kind of lived on that. We just hadn't made it public, but that's been one of our cut points as far as declaring a class remote, right? Okay. Individual grade levels, 10% positives. Total school, 10% positive. So we got these guardrails out there that when we hit them, we'll definitely go remote. So getting off that a little bit. The district is also in the final stages of planning another vaccine clinic event for students, staff, and the community. I think we've got that set up, Amy, for right in October, I believe.
The first week of September will be the first round of shots.
Okay. And the district will continue to encourage the public to receive the vaccination to slow the spread of COVID-19 and to avoid the need for missed school time due to quarantine. Individuals who are fully vaccinated at least 2 weeks prior to wait a minute. Hold on. I knew I would. I bet you that's it. All right. Prior to exposure, thank you, are not required to enter the DHEC quarantine protocols and can remain in school unless they present with symptoms. In addition, we are reconstituting the testing site. I know a lot of parents are having trouble. They've closed down the one at Cornerstone, and so there are wait times. So we're going to reinstitute that, and I think we've already got our people to agree. We're going to use some nurses and hire some sub nurses like we did last year, right?
Yes, and we still have tests left over from last year.
And we still have tests left over. Okay, so we hope to add that. Any questions about any of that before I talk about mask?
Just to clarify, you mentioned the guardrails on class. No, is that a factor, the guardrails are a factor in whether you take a class?
Last year it was a factor. This year we're thinking about it, firming it up, and because people are asking, well, it's unfair to do this one or that one. You used to look also with it, the community spread, right, Joe?
Yeah, so the way it breaks down, those guardrails, if we hit those, that's a definite virtual period. But we're also having to look whether or not we come across a community spread within a program, a classroom, an activity, a camp, something along those lines that would also cause maybe a class or a group or a grade level to go virtual as well. But the 20-10-10, those, if you hit those, you're looking at a virtual grade.
So what I heard was that you're looking at spread within a program, and if you have spread within a program, then you would consider a virtual option for that program, class, grade levels, whatever that is. But there's a hard stop at 10% positive in a class, 20% in a school. Is that?
20 in a class.
20-10-10.
20 class, 10 grade level, 10 school.
20-10-10.
And that's 10% active positives? Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
So, do you said you're gonna get to masks in a minute. I had made a list of all the things that had been coming in from families, and I think you touched on most of these, so let me, clarify a couple of them. Contact tracing is done case by case, situation by situation. I know there have been questions about, do you quarantine the whole class? Do you quarantine a portion of the class? Kind of depends, but there's very specific guidance that is followed for doing contact tracing that determines who is a close contact and therefore who has to be quarantined. Yes?
Yes, there's very specific guidance, and all of them is, we have our COVID teams at each of the schools that, we use DHEC guidance to determine, who is quarantined and who is not.
All driven by DHEC guidelines, including the piece that you mentioned about vaccinated or not vaccinated. And I know that was one of the questions or comments, I don't remember who asked it today, but those are DHEC and CDC guidelines that a vaccinated person is not required to quarantine, and we're following those guidelines as well. Unless they are symptomatic, of course.
So may I ask a follow-up question about that? So if, say for example, my child is part of an exposure, but he or she is vaccinated, I don't believe that the school knows that my child is vaccinated. So you send the child home, then they have to show their vaccination and then they can come back to school? Or is there a way that the school can collect that data? Should a parent be willing to give that data?
Actually, yes, and we've emailed that out to all of our parents multiple times now. If they'd like to go ahead and in advance voluntarily provide their card to the nurse, they can do that.
Okay.
Or
Yes.
they can show it when exposed, but if they want to go ahead and provide it to their school nurse in advance,
So I'm gonna try and take a stab for the microphone. All parents should have received a note one day last week that mentioned that is an option. And so they can be proactive, anybody that wants to can be proactive and have their student take their card into the nurse and put it on file. Or when a student is identified as being a close contact and receives a call, because if you're asked to quarantine, it's not a letter, it's a call that you have to quarantine. At that point in time, you also have the option of saying, oh wait, but I have a vaccination card, let me get it to you. Fair?
So is there a place on the website that the parents upload that vaccine card that?
School nurse.
It goes directly to the school nurse? Okay, so you send it as an attachment in an email? Okay.
We need to get you to read your emails.
I was reading a few others this week.
I was gonna say, the same with many of our parents, I know there's a lot, they get lost in the shuffle. Okay.
And I'm only down to 2 kids. Jeez.
I want to mention something else you said.
And I got some other things to mention too, and I left out. Go ahead.
Well, you mentioned a vaccine clinic, again, based on one of the questions that we got. Parental permission is a part of that process. We are not vaccinating any children without parental permission.
I
just
see
to
so
clarify
much.
that, any
I see
questions
so
about that.
much misinformation on social media that my stomach hurts, but that's okay. Go ahead.
That's why I wanted to say that we, or just to clarify for anybody who might have heard otherwise, that is absolutely with parental permission.
And so, may I go back to something before we move forward? So some of those mitigation strategies that you were talking about, for example, eating in the classroom, is that something that's happening tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, or is that something that we should expect to hear from our principals?
As soon as
they-
reasonably, that's why I tell, the principal's hearing it for the first time tonight.
Okay.
It's probably gonna be pretty hard to pull it off by tomorrow, or
I
maybe
know.
they can, I don't know.
They're superheroes, so it wouldn't
Yeah.
surprise me.
Some of them
but-
aren't here, you know, so
Right.
I need to send a memo out, and I wanted the board to hear it first.
But just to clarify for parents, you're gonna hear information from principals in the next, soon.
I would
right.
think by Monday we could have it all, oh, yeah, shaking his head, yes, yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to give you more work. Perfect. Great, thank you.
And I'll fail to mention on my list, we continue to clean and sanitize the schools and the buses and the ongoing installation of the Air Guardian system. Let me just mention that, at the last meeting I gave a date of, I knew it'd be before Christmas. We've now met with the vendor. It looks like they're gonna be able to expedite the install, and it looks like early October we'll have all 17 schools, which is quite amazing. So it's gonna be quicker than we anticipated as far as operational.
And we're still using the Mr. Machines at night?
Oh, yes, yeah.
I'm hearing we're not, but I thought we were.
Okay, well,
Good.
If they only knew what they really know versus what they've read and heard on social media.
Just
Also didn't mention, failed to mention, we'll increase the number of lunches and eating spaces in middle and high school. And I think we've already done that at some high schools, and I hadn't really, the principals can look and see. I know that's a challenge, but if we have to buy more tables or go down the halls, we'll do some more of that too. Okay. Can I move on or have other questions? Okay, let's get back to the top. Last year, the way we operated, obviously we had more mitigations in place, but one of the things that were common and steady was that we paid attention to science, and I know you can debate science all day, but we paid attention to science, and we also stayed within the law last year with what we had to do. This year, so let's talk a little bit about what we have before us. We are, I can just tell you right now, we don't have any legal authority per our legal team, per our lawyers, to require masks to break the law. We have no legal authority to do that. You asked, well, 10 districts are doing it, or 9 or 8. You asked, everybody's situation is different. In Fort Mill, we are the lowest free and reduced lunch state. We're the lowest poverty district in the state. A lot of districts have much higher poverty than we do and don't spend as much state money. We have a $15 million a month budget. Over half of it is state dollars. If we get 1/12 of it each month. So we don't have the money to go all year. We get it every month. So if we violated the law and somebody in the legislature voted to penalize us, and by taking all of our state money, we could jeopardize the operation of this district. We could not pay our teachers. We could not pay anybody if we lost our state money. So we're in a different situation than many districts that you may see that have higher poverty levels and have more federal dollars. We don't have as many other monies other than the state allotment of money. So what it could do, it would have to all play out. It would mean we could not even operate remotely. We couldn't. We could potentially, if we don't get money to pay teachers and pay the light bill, we could not even operate remote. We wouldn't even have the money to pay them. So that's the danger in going against it from our standpoint, from Fort Mill School District's standpoint. Getting all these emails about go against it. Well, I'm just telling you that's our challenge. That's our challenge with defying the law, good or bad. That's where we are. In fact, let me read the law as we know it. Proviso 1.108 states that school districts may not use any state appropriated funds to require, announce, or enforce the use of masks by students or employees in any educational facilities. The large majority of our district operating budget is derived from state funding. Fort Mill School District receives only a small portion of federal funding each school year, and cannot operate on these funds alone should the district lose state funding under the proviso. In order to maintain operations and continue to provide educational services to our community, the district must remain in compliance with all South Carolina funding laws. So the only, and we're all concerned about the numbers. Don't get me wrong, it's not like anybody could, if they're not concerned about the numbers of positives and the numbers of quarantines, would be living, I don't know, living under a rock. We're all concerned about it. The only hope we have, I believe, just from looking at the law, is to try to stay in school as long as we can, as safely as we can, with our guardrails. They may not allow, if it gets bad, we'll be going remote, but at least we can go remote. If we go immediately to mass, which may indeed be the scientific way to do it, we got a funding issue. So we're in a tight situation. Yes, we could break the law. I wouldn't recommend we do because the solvency of the school district. I don't see how any CEO could recommend something that would put you bankrupt, your organization bankrupt. So it gets complicated, but I don't see, listening to our attorneys, listening to our legal people talk about Fort Mill School District, I just don't see a way to not rely on the state funding. Questions? Well, I forgot to say the most important mitigating factor that we want to add, and I hope everybody at home hears this because now you're either mad or happy about what I just said about masks. We are recommending, we're highly recommending masks for all students and staff. So we were not that strong on our statement. So we're doing all we can do. We're highly recommending students and staff wear masks. We cannot mandate it, however, due to the law.
As of today.
As of today, as of right now at 8 o'clock tonight. And I may get off here and we learn something different. Let me ask principals if they have any questions. No, I don't want to do that. They can't hear. All right, board members, do y'all have questions?
No, I think it's just a reiteration and kind of a period to what you've said. We are not a district that is willing to take those kinds of risks. It is not something that we do to jeopardize the education of the children in our district. We don't collect funds from enough other areas to be able to pay any bills when 95% of our overhead is salaries. You can't just make that up. You can't just thumb your nose at that. And anything that we do contrary to that is doing exactly that. And it's just not, it's not for the vitality and the livelihood of this district to do that.
And I'll even bring it more basic than that. We took an oath to uphold the law.
That's right.
And at the moment,
that's the law.
That's where we are.
I'll also say that I would say, Dr. Epps, I think there's more details that I think you have this year versus last year. So I'm appreciative of that. I think there's a little bit more of the bullet points that I think some folks at home would be a little bit more appreciative of.
I will say this: I'm proud of this board because we've made a commitment to put our trust in the people that are making decisions in the schools every single day, and we've stayed committed to that. And I think if you look across what's going on in the country, there is so much board overreach for the people that we're employing are experts in the schools to make that decision. So whether I agree or disagree with what's going on right now, I'm proud that our board has maintained commitment to making sure that our leaders in this district are making day-to-day decisions. With that being said, a lot of people talked about data tonight when they came up and they spoke in public participation. And I know as a priority, we've said that our number one priority is having kids in schools. And it's unfortunate that a political stance has now jeopardized the data that we have to successfully get through a school year with kids in schools by not allowing us to use mitigating measures in the schools. So I am disappointed in that. A lot of the same people that are arguing that it's government overreach to mandate masks don't understand that it's government overreach to not let local authorities do what we're supposed to do. So.
Going through my list, there's only one other thing that you did not touch on, or at least I didn't hear it, that in all the emails that I was reading over the last few days, plexiglass. Let's talk about plexiglass for a second. It was intentionally taken down over the summer. It was discussed back in the spring as not an effective mitigation strategy. CDC didn't accept it anymore, so it was taken down over the summer. I know I have seen a lot of parents individually requesting that it be placed back, and I think our principals have graciously granted those individual requests. I think it's important to note, it does not change any of that dynamics as far as quarantines go, because it's not a consideration among the contact tracing or the DHEC or the CDC guidelines anymore. So it is absolutely a parent if they chose to have it, but I don't want anybody to be then disappointed to find out that if another child in the class tests positive, that child still has to quarantine with or without a piece of plexiglass, because it's not factored in through any of the governing agencies, if I understand it correctly.
Well, I think initially last year, at the beginning, it was felt by DHEC that it would be a deterrent. Later, they even took it off their list. So, but if parents want it, we're providing it.
And just the nature of the elementary school interaction, unfortunately, they get together on the floor for circle time and things like that, which makes it harder to stay behind a plexiglass throughout the full day. Probably slightly different at a Miller or a Miller high school where you're at your own individual desk most of the time, although even then there's still a lot of student movement and interaction.
I'd like to make a comment, just observation I made looking at the data on the dashboard prior to today's update, because I didn't get to go back and recalculate it, but just looking at the balance from elementary to middle to high school in rough numbers, it seemed, based on the number of students in each of those program levels, both the student exposures, positive tests and teacher or staff positive tests seemed fairly balanced. I didn't see a hot spot of like, oh, there it is, all elementaries going to hell in a handbasket. It seemed at that point a little more uniformly spread.
Not surprising to me, it is proportionately lower by a pretty material factor at the high school level. Yes. And I suspect, totally my own opinion, I suspect that has to do with more vaccinations at the high school level than you have certainly at middle school or not at elementary. Again, that's just my best guess, but it is statistically different at the high school than it is at the middle and the elementary. Both last week and today, just a quick calculation.
I know a teacher that can maybe do some statistics for us.
I know, right? That's what I was thinking.
What else?
Trying to think if I've left anything out. I'm sure.
Looking through all my notes. Is there anything else? Brian mentioned, given the number of quarantines that are rising, we're obviously going to have more students that are going to be in need of devices and internet capabilities, and I know we'll work through those best we can. I'm glad to hear that we've at least got a plan for some number, and we'll address more as they come up. And I think the testing site being available will be very helpful to the community, specifically to our families, but throughout the community. And I'm guessing once it's ready that you'll have information to share on what constitutes eligibility for this type of testing. I don't know if it's only symptomatic or what it can and can't be used for, but that will come out in a communication in due time.
I would anticipate maybe right after Labor Day we'd be ready to go.
Okay, perfect.
Remember 3 weeks ago now, we had no idea. Again, here we are, like last year, having to respond on a dime. So I think we've done all. We're certainly doing all we can do, I believe, with the constraints attached to our financial situation. And yes, we're all concerned about the numbers. And I just try to tighten down as best we can and encourage everybody to wear a mask, teachers and
to wash your hands.
And I would encourage everybody in the building to wear one just to get us over this hump.
Well, and
strongly encourage
in the community as well. Practice all of that at home. You know, it's a little bit of practice what you preach. You can't come here when we're on day 7 of school and point to us and say, well, this is all because the kids are in school and they're not wearing masks. Well, where were they prior to school starting? Because I think it probably kind of started sooner than when they got to school. So it needs to be a team effort. We've got to all work together to get this to go away.
All right, well, I know that was a good kumbaya moment, but we do have an action item as well. So we have other agenda items. Are we done on that topic?
We're done. Move on.
Okay. Item 8.01, we've got some additional year-end transfers.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. Tonight, I am bringing to you a request, as we have done in prior years. If you recall, back in May and June, you approved an initial transfer out of our general fund based on projections for how we would end the fiscal year 2021. Tonight, I'm bringing to you an additional transfer request. This is the total is $7.5 million to transfer out of the general fund to debt service. This is a result of a combination of various revenue sources that came in over budget, as well as expenditures that were remaining as unspent funds. That total is $3 million, and that is only about 2% of our overall budget last year. So we spent 98% of our budgeted expenditures last year. This is still enabling us to maintain a general fund balance in the 19% range. Our board policy requires us to maintain 2 months of the next year's budgeted expenditures, which is 16%. But we like to keep it a little bit higher from a cash flow standpoint to maintain our cash flow until property taxes come in, primarily in December and January. So this, even with moving this amount, this would maintain our fund balance at 19%. But we think this is important. These funds would go into our debt service fund and would enable us to reduce our debt service millage when the tax bills go out in October. Our targeted amount was 72 mills, which is a reduction of 13 mills. We're currently at 85 mills. So we think that this is important for our taxpayers this year. So tonight I'm requesting approval to transfer $7.5 million out of the general fund to the debt service fund. Questions?
Pretty clear.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the administration to transfer $7.5 million from general funds to debt service.
Second.
Motion and a second to transfer $7.5 million from general to debt service. Any discussion? Questions? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries.
Thank you.
And I do actually believe that was our last order of business. We were able to accomplish everything we needed to in our executive session earlier, so we do not need a subsequent executive session, right? Is that my understanding? Okay. Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right.